Our guest is Jeremy Lach, president of Empire Marketing Partners, an independent marketing company helping advisors across the country with life annuity long-term care solutions. Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. So what are some of the big challenges that people face as they approach retirement with their finances?
Well, I think as you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of challenges, but one of the biggest challenges that I've really seen throughout this industry is the challenge that people have is we've spent so much time throughout our lives learning how to accumulate money. I think our industry, David, does a really good job of helping everybody understand how to accumulate and save their money. And then the challenge, of course, becomes as you approach retirement or get into retirement, really, how do I spend it? How do I spend my money? And I kind of equate that to looking at when you go and you want to go climb Mount Everest, and we don't just go to the Himalayas and jump up and scale this mountain, right, David? I mean, we gotta train, we gotta learn. So we spend a lot of time trying to learn how to climb this mountain. We got base camp, we've got all these, different situations that go into. You got to do this safely. We want to climb Mount Everest, but we want to live. But I think we spend so much time training, but we forget. We get to the top of Mount Everest. What happens? We're 29,000 feet above sea level. We got to learn how to get back down.
Right.
And the challenge is you got to spend just as much time because sometimes the way down is just as treacherous as it was on the way up. So with that being the case, with that said, in retirement, the challenges we have is we learn so very well how to accumulate and save our money. But as far as how do we spend it, whether it's tax situations, tax planning, outliving money, a lot of concerns that people have, but it's really important for us to understand both segments of, on the way up, I've got to learn how to plan and accumulate and save. And on the way down, I got to learn how to spend. And I really want to enjoy it too.
Yeah, and it's not just knowing how to spend money, because a lot of people listening to us would say, well, hey, that's no problem, Jeremy. I know how to spend money. It's knowing how to spend it and not run out of money. And again, with your analogy, not running out of energy or ability to get down the mountain all the way to complete your journey or the challenge that is in front of you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Well, is it too late? I mean, this is a good question. Is it too late to make some changes, or as you use your analogy of climbing mountains, is it too late to be changing your training, to change your investments, to change your approach when you are right on the cusp of retirement or even into retirement?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, I don't think it's too late. No, I mean, I think that you always have time to make adjustments inside your portfolio. And that is, sometimes you might already be into retirement. You might already be into distribution, and some of those things might be off the table as far as some of the different options that might be available to you. However, it's never too late to make changes and make adjustments unless you're just flat out run out of money. And at that point, it really doesn't matter. So, but yeah, I think there's always time. You just have to be prepared to understand that, hey, I got to ask the right questions and to make those changes when they're necessary. Yeah.
Well, speaking of questions, so on the subject of getting help in this area, right? You mentioned, again, we'll go back to your analogy of the mountain climbing. Which, by the way, my father-in-law has done a lot of mountain climbing, so he's shared with me about some of the training. He hired somebody to help him train. He hired a guide. So that's, again, your analogy is very good, Jeremy, because when it comes to answering questions, let's talk about the questions that maybe the financial professionals, if somebody's going to work with a financial professional to train to go up or down the mountain of life, the mountain of retirement, what are some of the questions you would recommend that the retiree ask of these financial professionals?
Well, I mean, I think one of the main ones is am I doing enough tax planning? That's a question you should be asking in every conversation we're having with our planners today is, am I doing enough tax planning? And tax planning is extremely important to get me to retirement. We use that analogy with Mount Everest. It's extremely important to do tax planning before I get to retirement. And then once I get into retirement, I want to understand what all the different strategies out there. And David, you're no stranger to this. You've seen a lot of changes, right? Changes.
Sure.
Laws have changed, regulations have changed as far as, a lot of different rules and regulations that are in our industry and how much money we can and we can't access and when can we access it. So I think it's just really, really important for us to, spend time with our financial planners and asking, hey, am I doing enough tax planning? And if I'm not doing enough tax planning, can I make some of these changes today? And how will it affect me 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And if I feel like there's going to be some changes in the tax code, if I feel like taxes are going to be higher, can I make some changes now because I think taxes are going to be higher in the future, and vice versa?
Yeah, what's the outcome on my financial picture? How is it going to affect me in terms of the sustainability of my income as it relates to when I make some of these decisions and the tax effects? And then I guess I would add another point there on that. It's very related is for the financial professionals is, let's talk about, back to your point of thank you, financial professional. You've been great at helping me scale the mountain. Good job. Are you going to be able to help me get down the other side of this thing? Because as you very well know, Jeremy, the strategies to get you up the mountain aren't necessarily the same strategies to get you down the mountain.
Exactly. And oftentimes, well, and majority of the time, you think about how long you spend in pre-retirement, or how long you spend in pre-planning for climbing Mount Everest, how long you spend in pre-retirement and where your options are to invest your money. Generally, when you get to retirement, you might have 60, 70, 80% of your money in pre-tax dollars, right? So when I get to retirement and I've got that much money in pre-tax distributions or qualified accounts, there's some tax planning that needs to be put forth ahead of time. So, really important to understand that the biggest assets that we're holding on to generally are pre-tax dollars, and we just got to be prepared for that as we approach retirement.
Be prepared and don't be afraid to ask questions. Jeremy Lach, Empire Marketing Partners. Great information, good insights, and we love your analogy of climbing up and down the mountain. Thank you very much.